Hey everyone, Tasha here, and I am with Karen. And if you don't know Karen, because you're listening to the podcast, Karen is my business partner here. So we run this sales training variety show together. And one of the things we put on our page for social media says, one thing I want to get better at my business right now, in my business right now, is blank. And then a bunch of people put consistency. So we know that everybody is different. And so thought it would be a good idea to have a couple different perspectives on this question. We don't know what your situation is. So I don't think we can do a here's what you need to do. So instead we thought we would just say what we do to be consistent. So you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, so what do I do to be consistent? Well, I think that, what does that even mean?
You want me to, I have prepared the dictionary definition of consistent.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because that was the same thing that when I started thinking, okay, what do I do? Same thing. Acting or done in the same way over time, especially so as to be fair or accurate. Do you want me to read that again?
Okay.
Acting or done in the same way over time, especially so as to be fair or accurate.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing, and I hear this a lot from clients too, that they want to be consistent. And I feel like in my work, I am consistent in some things and not consistent in other things. And so for me, I'm consistent with making sure that I have work hours so that I can work, because this is how I make money. And so I have to have set work hours aside. So how I do that, because now I have everyone home, everyone's here.
It's the best.
They're all here. And so my kids are here, and my husband's here, and my dog is here snoring under my desk, and they're here. So I just talk to my kids about, like, this is mommy's work time, and really set up what that means. And so this has been going on for a long time, right? Like, they've had summer days here and vacation days here where I'm working. And so they just know, like, mommy is working, and we've created schedules so they know what they're doing. And then I, schedule in breaks so I can spend some time with them. So that's one thing that I'm consistent in, is having work hours, and then also really figuring out, like, what are my priorities. But I'm not always the best at this. So I forget, when I'm consistent and on track with accomplishing the things I want to accomplish, it's because I remember what my priorities are. And when I remember what my priorities are, things go really well. But I think you and I had a conversation yesterday where I was like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. And you were like, well, do you remember what your goals are? And I'm like, no. And so I just think, like, just acknowledging that, especially now, right now, there's so much background noise, like, not just from the kids, but background, just this noise in my brain all the time with what's happening in the world. And so it was a good reminder to me yesterday, like, okay, just get focused on what are your goals. I mean, I always have a checklist of things I need to do. I'm not the best at time blocking, but I put things on my calendar. But really figuring out, okay, what are my goals? And then what are the things I need to do in order to accomplish those goals? And, but there are certain things that I'm consistently working, right? Mm-hmm. Working on something every day, taking action of some sort every day.
Yeah. Well, I think this idea of consistency, part of the challenge is, I think people feel like they need to be doing the same things every day. And
Yeah.
so then they automatically are like, I'm not consistent. That's routine, not consistency, right?
Right.
So what do you think is the difference between your task list and your goals?
Well, the task list points to, on a good week, the task list points to the goals, right? It's just a breaking down of, oh, like, what are the actual things that I need to do in order to reach this particular goal.
Right.
So that's how that works for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might have a task list, but it's not linked to the goal. I think that people are thinking consistency is the goal, but it's not, right?
Well, right. And that's where, when I'm working with clients, a lot of times what happens is it's just that they're in this place of overwhelm. And I've certainly been there too, where you're just like, I don't even know what to do. So even if I have work hours, like I'm just sitting here, like, what am I doing? Like I was yesterday. And so I do think that, one of the first steps is really figuring out, like, what is it that I want to accomplish? What are my priorities? What's most important to me? And then breaking that down into steps. And I will say now more than ever, I just think taking the guesswork out of the day is really important for continuing to move forward. Because I do think for most of us, our brains, well, I mean, I can't speak for who's ever watching this, but for me, and I know for you too, it's like our brains are so kind of clogged up with all this stuff that's happening in the world, that just not having to think and just being able to sit down and do is really important.
Yeah, some days we can think. And that's when we need to plan out the whole week when our brain is working because it's not reliable right now.
Yeah, correct. The brain is.
Brains are not reliable. Should I upload the replay? Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a kind of a vulnerable question, which I know you'll love. So you're not sleeping so well right now.
No, I'm not.
Also, at the same time, we are crushing all of our marketing goals and you're delivering really, really good coaching. I would think that's part of this consistency question. Because I think you said you woke up at 3 today.
I did.
And this is a recording we're doing at 3:30. It's been 12 hours since you woke up. So to give context, right? If you normally wake up at 6 or 6:30, that would be recording this thing at 6:30. Like that's kind of crazy. Other than the fact that I wouldn't let you cancel, which I think actually is a part of consistency, but I'll talk about that.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you're still performing at whatever your best version possible when you're not sleeping and right there's a lot of anxiety and stuff like that? Because I think that's something that I'm sure a lot of people are running into.
Yeah, I don't know if that I am performing at my best level. Like I really don't. And I think that it's just okay to just say like I'm going to just do the very best that I can today. And my very best today may look different from my very best on a day where, I sleep 8 hours. But I'm going to show up and I'm going to care about people, and I'm going to just make sure that I'm not focusing too much on myself. And I feel like that always seems to work. And I don't know, it gives me energy too. I think you have to think about like, what are the things that bring me energy during my day?
Checking the to-do list. Right.
Yeah. But doing a brain dump is really helpful, like doing a brain dump of all the things and just getting it all out onto paper so that you can sort it.
Yeah, awesome. There's a few questions I'll like to hear you weighing in. So systems and habits. Getting into a whole new routine. Do you have any ideas or thoughts on how, if someone has to establish a new routine?
I mean, for me, we're in a new routine, right? Because the kids are home doing their school here. And so I think communication is really important just within the family of what does that look like? Um, really talking about what are the things that might get in the way of, being in the routine that we want to be in. And I think just having grace, like I always get really anxious. I know you don't know this about me, but
I do, but I don't think they do.
I always get really
You
anxious.
hide it well on camera.
I do not. But I always get really anxious when there's something new in my life. And so actually the night before, it wasn't the night, the week, when I found out my kids were going to be, doing homeschool,
Oh yeah.
I was super anxious just because it's like I always anticipate, and I'm much better once I'm in the middle of it. But I think being in a new routine can bring up a lot of anxiety and fear and uncertainty. And I just think it's okay to honor that, like just to know that new things can be really hard, and being in a new routine can be really hard, and just not beating ourselves up, like just being really kind to ourselves and giving ourselves grace.
I love that. That's good. Let me see if there's another one. What are your tips for someone else? Like if you were to summarize from what you've learned, understanding that some may or may not apply.
My tips for being consistent. I think the biggest tip is to, at the beginning of the week, or maybe not on a Monday, but on a Friday, I don't know, I kind of like to do it on a Monday, is like brain dump everything that's on your mind and everything that you need to do. And I do this with clients, and it's such a simple exercise, but it's like, then go through your list and prioritize, and everything else just gets pushed to the side. So because what happens is we start thinking, our brain is pulled in so many different ways. We're thinking about all of the things, and that's when the overwhelm sets in. So really just saying, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do, and then writing out what are the actions that I need to do in order to accomplish that particular thing. And everything else is just going to sit over here. I'm not going to think about this today. So that's one tip. And then another tip, well, for me also with consistency, is just a lot of just catching myself in a lot of negative thoughts. And so, of course, that I am big into the mindset stuff. And so, but if I'm feeling overwhelmed, it's usually because of the way that I'm thinking, or if I'm, feeling a certain way, it's because of a thought that I have. And so just getting really, really clear on what is that thought? How can I change that thought? And that always makes me more productive and consistent. So I don't know if that answered your question, but those are a few things that are helpful for me.
I think that's great. And you just admitted your negative thoughts. So I'm going to take this and run with it. Would you be willing to share a few of those? Because I think that they would really relate to a lot of people.
Sure. I have no idea what I'm doing would be one. I don't even know. I'm trying to, you're putting me on the spot. I mean, I have them all day. Like, I'll just sit and think, like, I don't even know. I don't even know anything.
I mean, I know what they are, but I'm not going to put you on blast like that.
Well, I'm trying to think, what even are they? It's really mostly, the biggest one is usually I have no idea what I'm doing. Does what I'm doing even matter? Right?
Yeah, sure. There are variations of that.
Like, I'm not contributing enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, like I mean, those would probably be some of the top ones, but they get just different ones all day.
All day.
All day. I have to just, right. I just will dump them out of my brain onto a piece of paper and then say,
all day, which is the beauty of our codependent relationship. Yeah. And I think that is just so important that I'm going to actually talk about that, not codependency, sort of. Any other thoughts before I go?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So I'm going to share my thoughts, and then I guess you can grill me if you want.
Okay.
You'll probably just be like, stop talking. I hear you talking all day. Okay. So what I wrote down is I felt like this question, how to be more consistent, is really hard because I think that's such an unclear definition of success.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that I am consistent. And we talked about this yesterday when we were talking about this podcast, that you mentioned that. And I don't think I'm consistent either. I think I'm actually like really, and you're like nodding your head, like I think I'm pretty roller coaster in my world. And I think about 2 weeks ago where like in the middle of our marketing meeting, I just like shut down, lost it, couldn't even think. And after that, usually when I get into a frenzy, I'll work my way out of a frenzy, but I stared at the wall for like 2 hours. It was really horrible. And I had to catch myself and just say, okay, today I lost.
Yeah.
And so as I was thinking about consistencies, I don't think I've ever asked myself, how can I be consistent, or how can I be more consistent? I think I asked myself, how can I be impactful today?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if we ask the wrong question, we'll get the wrong answer. So if I'm feeling like I don't want to work, I wear my Be Awesome shirt. And so if you're listening to the podcast, shirt I'm wearing is Get Up, Be Awesome, Repeat. And I actually think that this is really how I do it. I don't think, okay, I need to be consistent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think, okay, today I need to get up, be awesome, and then go to sleep and then do it again. And, you know, with things going on with the pandemic, we've been talking a lot about going too far into the future. As like, we really just have to focus on what do we need to do today. And so what I do is, I think that's like the overarching theme is I am not, if anyone's taken StrengthsFinder, I don't have a futuristic talent or a context talent. I literally live in today. And I use that to my advantage. And so I think that's something that's really helpful. Then I just wrote down a bunch of things that I have, I guess, architected into my life to keep me from being a chump. And a chump it's just the opposite of a champ. Like a chump is someone who just gives up.
Yeah.
And walks away.
I'm just coming in to get a check, but we're recording, honey. Thank you.
Yes. So we're trying to record something on being consistent. Brad, if you could just not distract us, that would be great.
So remember earlier when we talked about one of the important things with consistency was communication. Communicate. I'm going to be recording.
Awesome. And I'm not editing that out because it was perfect. We also won't edit out your snoring dog or anything else that happens. So one thing.
You were talking about being a chump.
Yeah, don't be a chump. So I pay very close attention to our profit and loss because this is how we pay for our family to eat and live in a house. So our profit and loss is really important. And if our profit and loss is not doing what it's supposed to do, it's like, oh, could you please go generate some revenue, please? And so it forces like that reality check on a weekly basis. Yeah. So what we do, and some of these are we things, some of these are me things, is each week we have a report that we share where we have our big goals that are important. And we're pretty psycho about making sure that's filled in. If I usually will do it Sunday, and if I don't, I come in Monday. By the time I start Monday, you've already filled out most of it. Because that is something that anchors us, that tells us each week, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And, you know, for me, you know, if my goals are appointments with leaders or webinars or content, I have to actually put in this sheet, what did I do towards that? And some of them are like, oh, well, that was pretty bad. Oh, I pretty much did nothing on this week. And so sometimes I'll have a 0, but sometimes I'll have a 4, right? And it all averages out. But that accountability that I have to you to do my job, right, is important. And so I look at these with you. I look at these with Heather each week. If you're having consistency issues, you may need to outsource your boss, which I have. Most of us are used to having bosses. I certainly have been told or challenged on my people-pleasing tendencies. So if you have people-pleasing tendencies and you're your own CEO, and that is messing you up because, right, you're pleasing everybody else and putting your business last, well, hire a boss and you'll redirect all your people-pleasing towards pleasing your boss, and you'll end up having way more success. So I do not want to show up to my call with Heather saying I didn't do the thing. I do not want to fill out that report and tell you I actually didn't do any outreach, or I didn't do that ad I was supposed to do. So that I think is really important. Another question that I ask, if it's not all perfect, because a lot of times I'll bite off more than I can chew. It's just asking this question of, is what I'm doing today moving me closer or further to where I ultimately want to be? Another question is, am I a person of my word? And I know, like this, I think this drives you crazy. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I told you I'd do this thing by this time, but I'll have to do it tomorrow. And you're like, who cares? But to me, it matters because I want to be a person of my word. If I told you I'd get you the thing on Wednesday, I need to do that. But like, as I was writing down all these things, what I realized is one of the reasons I'm able to be so productive is I built in so many external accountability things. Mm-hmm. And I know there's so many entrepreneurs out there that are like, I need to be able to do this on my own, and they need to grind through it. And I don't know if I'm a baby or not because I've done that, but I have set my life up so I am accountable in all areas.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Because I don't know, that's how I've always been. I've always, as an athlete, I've had a coach and a team I've held accountable for. As a corporate manager, I've had, leaders I've been accountable to. And so as an entrepreneur, this was the first time I didn't have someone I was accountable to. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's a natural state for us to not be accountable to anyone. So those are questions. And then this last one is, it's okay to have a bad day, but not a bad week. And as I was reflecting on this, I was sharing a little bit about what I was planning on sharing in my coaching call with two loyal mastermind that I have. And in that mastermind, I'm pretty honest about how often I have meltdowns, which is usually on Tuesdays.
Right.
And I was thinking about how I usually have meltdowns on Tuesdays. I have meltdowns like every week, but I also get a lot done. And so what is that? Well, I think it's okay for me to have a bad day, but not a bad week. So I'll talk about my Tuesday meltdowns, but you don't really hear much about the Monday or the Wednesday or the Thursday or the Friday meltdowns.
Right.
Like there's usually just one. Yeah. And, giving myself a little bit of like, if you're a sports team, I mean, I play sports. I know you're learning sports. But if you have 5 days or 6 days, if I'm going to be honest, in a week, and the score is 5-1 or 4-1, you still won that week. And I think that that's really important. I think so many people get discouraged, right? So if I had a Monday meltdown, which is 2 weeks ago, which is not usual, yours are usually on Monday. Mine usually, those are just the seeds that are planted to trigger my Tuesday meltdown. But that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of people would say, well, I'm just like really beat themselves up and shame themselves about that.
Right.
Instead of just saying, okay, well, I need to obviously go back into my cave, put some Band-Aids on, right? I'm not in a place to fight right now. And if I tried to fight, I would do more damage. So I'm going to go patch myself up and then come out tomorrow with more energy and enthusiasm. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I love it.
There's a couple questions that I'm going to answer. Okay, so Deanna asked, when do I schedule it? I know I need to, but I'm working full-time, teaching kiddo and normal stuff like meals, house, yard care. I'm not even sure when to do it, single mom. If I get interrupted, too much, I get frustrated. I also need my nighttime to chill. And then this emoji. I really want to schedule more time in, maybe certain nights, but not all, question mark, exclamation point. So I realized that with a lot of our full-time clients, a lot of trainers will always say, here's what you need to do every single day, which is, I think, where this consistency question comes in. I just don't know very many entrepreneurs that actually do the same thing every single day.
Right.
My recommendation to Deanna, and I don't know if you have anything you want to add to it, is I would just do certain nights, because this pressure of doing every day is leading to no days. Right. So I would just do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning, and then giving having something to look forward to. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's great. I mean, I think that one of the things that I always say is we have to decide how we want to feel in our business and how do we want to feel in our life. And once we can identify that feeling, then we have to craft our life around the feeling that we're chasing. And I mean, the feeling isn't, I'm certain, to be crazy, right?
Right. Well, actually, you lost me at feeling. What are your thoughts on someone who says, actually working my business, I'm frozen and can't seem to move, and that's so not like me?
What are my thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think frozen is happening for a lot of people right now. And that happened to me yesterday, where I just felt like I don't even know what I'm doing, right? And I would describe that as being frozen. And that's where I think I know it's a simple exercise, but it's just doing that brain dump. Like, you have to get it out of your brain onto a piece of paper and then circle something you want to do and break it down. Like, and actually, what's interesting is in our membership group, the Emerge Surge, we do phone jams, power hour, where we get on Zoom and make phone calls together. And one of the gals in there was like, I've been so frozen. And just coming here, like, it goes back to the accountability, right? Coming here knowing that, okay, I'm just going to show up. And if I just show up, I know I'm going to make the calls. And she was able to unfreeze by moving into action. And so just figuring out, like, what is just one thing I can do? Because once we do one thing, we're going to move into action. It's like going to the gym. Like, the hardest part is putting your clothes on.
Well, I'm usually in those clothes all day. So then part of the problem. But I mean, I think about that Monday meltdown day. And you made me do that workout with you. And I was probably just going to just shut down and mope on the couch the rest of the day. So I do think a lot of it comes down to accountability. The overall advisement that I would give, and I give this to my clients, is you have to have SOS. So I wanted to come back to like how we check in with each other. Like, it's kind of funny when I say it out loud. It's like the 6:30. Okay, what am I working with today? Like, how are you? How are you? But having, an SOS function in your life, or someone who really does care about your success, and it can't be your spouse. That is really unhealthy. And I think a lot of spouses want to be that person. Like, oh, you don't need, I've heard so many clients say this to me. My husband says, why do you need a coach? I can tell you what to do. I'm like, that's so, I can make sure you work. That's so unhealthy in that relationship. Charlie likes it when I tell him what to do, but for everybody else in the relationship, it's probably not healthy. But having that SOS, and right now, I think our higher level cognitive function is legitimately shut down.
Totally.
This is not a theory. This is how the neuroscience works. And there is really no shame, right? If you're in our membership or you're a personal client, to just say, you could literally post in the Emerge Surge, what am I supposed to be doing today?
Right.
And we would be like, here's what you need to be doing today. And then you would get to it.
Yeah.
And this concept of being unfrozen, one of Charlie's cousins asked me for help with Zoom. She's a teacher. and she was really overwhelmed. And so she said, okay, here are the challenges I'm having. I said, okay, well, I can't do it tomorrow, but how about the next evening? And the next evening she sent me a message and said, I figured it out. And what I noticed is sending the SOS, I need help, when you have a minute, automatically frees up our brain. We're no longer in this like hijack. The fog moves, and usually we can figure out the answer even before the help comes through, but just by admitting, I don't know this, will someone help me? I think eliminates a lot of that stress. So if you don't have that mechanism in your life for consistency, I really do recommend obviously I'm a paid coach and we have coaching programs and I stand to benefit from this call to action. But I only have a coaching practice because I believe so much in that. And it's what we do in our lives. And I don't know if it weren't for you or Heather, how consistent I would be.
Yeah. Especially
with, Charlie working full time and all that. Like, why would I get my stuff done? So I really don't know how anybody functions without those mechanisms.
Yeah.
If you function at all, you're probably better than me. So that's what I think about consistency. Got any final thoughts?
No, I think I love just your reach out for help, right? You're not alone. And I think whether it's through us here, like you said, in our membership group, or through coaching or with a friend, just make sure that you're asking for help if you're stuck.
Awesome. I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you need anything, reach out. All right. Bye.